number 19. So I was playing a little bit of blues and just wanted to kind of talk about some ideas in regards to soloing. So one of the things that I really like doing is trying to be, I guess, as analytical and as critical as I can about my playing. In that sense, like listening to something that you played or something that someone played and kind of really talking what's going on there. I'll explain what I mean. So basically, we're listening to Coltrane or, West or Pat Metheny or, Brad Mehldau, and we're saying, okay, this is amazing. They're just like, it's genius. Okay, that's cool, but that's not very helpful. So what I'm suggesting is saying exactly what's cool, like what's happening and why is it good. So the same way that you can analyze and break down like an amazing solo of, Parker or again, Bill Evans, Coltrane, Miles, whatever it is, whoever it is, you can take your stuff and be critical about it in a good way, and be like, not just like, oh, this is awful or this is amazing, like saying like, okay, what's actually going down, what's happening. So for that, you can just like, I made 4 columns. So the first one says like, the second one says don't like, take out, and work on. Of course, you can have more columns, but we can start with these 4. So what I'm suggesting is to record yourself, just video yourself playing, or audio, whatever you want, and listen carefully and say, things that you like about your playing. And it could be anything. It can be like the vibe, it could be like, the way your guitar sounds or instrument, the way you started a solo, the first phrase, whatever it is, the articulation, the shirt that you're wearing, whatever you're digging, it's fine. Just like write down the things that you thought were awesome. And it again can be something like not in the music. It could be like a vibe with the trio or with the band, something like you liked, again, whatever it is. Don't like, things that you didn't like, you're playing something and it's like not cool. Why? What's like you were rushing something, you were, I don't know, the shirt didn't match, I don't know, that's yeah, but seriously, like, I mean, things you were not digging, and like be clear about it, be very specific, not the solo. Be like, okay, the arpeggio when I'm playing the B diminished is not happening. Okay, cool. Then take out, you're doing stuff sometimes that are like you don't like, like, and you're doing it again and again, like, I don't know, you're doing this weird slide or something, and you're like, I don't like it, I don't want it to be in my music, I'm just gonna take it out. So you just like literally take care of it. So basically this is kind of a process of editing, right? But you're like taking your solo and you're playing and you're editing that like off time, right? Because when you're soloing, we're basically kind of composing real time using a lot of facilities and arsenal, stuff that we're learning and trying to have as a optional ideas to really withdraw from when we're improvising. But this is working on that baggage that we have in a good way, like the options, but like making them a little bit more clear and more like, oh, this is, I'm doing this, I'm not doing that. Another thing is work on, like, you're playing this blues thing and like, every time you hit that, that 4 minor chord, whatever, it doesn't sound good, like the arpeggio or something in the fingering, that it's not happening, so like very clearly, you know exactly what you need to do, so write it down and address it. So I think the same way we're doing that, you can go, and I did that like, with solos that I like, I'll be like listening to Keith Jarrett and I'll be like, okay, instead of saying this is like a genius, solo, everything is amazing, I'll be like, okay, so what's cool about it? Okay, so he's starting the first phrase, like this like reference to the melody, playing very little, okay, very little reference to the melody. Then he's playing this really cool blues phrase over the, like 3 octaves, cool, I can do that. Then he's playing again the melody, then he's playing a bebop line for 4 bars, very specific, like to the changes, okay, I can do that, cool. So then analyzing the whole solo in that like sort of language that is not the actual notes, but is like the, the shape. So I think this is helpful, or this could be helpful. Okay, that's it about that. The second thing, I was just playing like a little blues in F, and I was just trying to like take an idea and like repeat it, because basically what happens, I think, with music is repetition creates context. It's something that Ari Honing told me. So by repeating an idea, you're creating context, right? And in that sense, jazz is a very special language because it's complicated and it's complex because there are a lot of reference, right? So people who are not within the language and are not, you know, in the know already, it's hard to connect to it because there is a lot of missing information that they're not understanding what's going on. So when you're repeating an idea, you know, something very simple, just like again, it doesn't need to be with chords, it could be just one note. Right? So just by repeating an idea, I'm creating context, and then I can change that idea to something else. So when I was playing the blues, I was trying to take some of these elements and like taking an idea, repeating it a little bit, then contrasting it with a different idea that is very different in, you know, harmonic information and rhythmic, in range and things like that. So that's another thing to think about, like just like trying to contrast things and create some context and then break it and then go back to it. Okay, tell me what you think, tell me if this is helpful, and leave a comment. Alright, I'll see you guys very soon.